Okay, excellent. So this meeting will be recorded and we'll post it on our website and we'll send along the slides and the link to the video as well for people to refer to later. And for those that I haven't met yet, I'm Sona Coffey. I'm a senior program manager here at CPA, and I'm running our Energized Communities programming. The Innovation Fund is one piece of this, and we've got several exciting parts of the program that have been launching, and I've been working with several of you on getting your cities enrolled in one of those projects, and we'll touch on that here briefly as well. The bulk of this meeting is going to be talking about the Innovation Fund. So if you have, questions or need clarity on anything, just feel free to, raise a hand or, flag me, put it in the chat. And we'll have a good bit of time for Q&A. We've gotten some great questions on the program already. So I've started to collect those and we'll address those to start. And then of course, if you have other questions and things you want to know about the program, we can have an open discussion there. But to start, let me start off with an overview on Energized Communities. And this is a reminder for folks that haven't enrolled in the program yet, or a reminder for those that are in the midst of getting the agreements ready and through approvals within your departments and city manager, city council meetings, things like that. This overall program, the goal here is to remove barriers to implementing decarbonization projects for our member agencies. And we're doing this by providing funding, by providing technical assistance, to help our agencies with building electrification and with transportation electrification. We're focusing on our municipal fleets and also on community EV charging. So the community EV charging piece isn't live yet. We are currently running our building and our fleet electrification projects, but community EV will be coming. We have a new staff person that's joined our team and we'll be working on the program design. So if you do have, sites that you're interested in that you think would be good locations for public charging at a municipal site, we are taking those that input now and putting a list together, and we'll be in touch with all of you to let you know when that program is expected to go live in the first quarter of the new year. But the big focus for today is our Innovation Fund, which just launched here recently on October 1st. This is you all know a little bit about this now. Where we're preparing to provide $250,000 per project. It's a competitive funding opportunity, so we'll expect to award about 4 projects this year and another 4 projects next year. We'll open a second funding cycle next fall. So if agencies don't have project ideas that are ready to go in this time frame, don't worry. We will have another opportunity for you all to apply. And of course, those that are applying can also apply again next year. So there's a couple of cracks at getting some funding to really pursue and promote decarbonization in your communities. This, as I mentioned, will be a competitive process. So we'll go over kind of the project application, the categories, and how we're planning to review and select these projects. One of the key takeaways is that the project should align with one of our board approved program pillars. So we've got the 3 program areas here around resiliency and grid management, around electrification, and around local procurement. We've got some sample projects listed here. These are also available on our website. And this is by all means not all inclusive. So there's going to be other projects, other ideas that you all are working on that will likely fit into these categories or, across all 3 of the categories. So we're open to what you have coming up and we can talk about any ideas or questions that you have on those as well. Let's see. And so quickly here we can go over what to expect for the application. We are trying to keep the application process as kind of simple and streamlined for you as we can. We are also looking for the responses to be as streamlined as we can get them as well. So we're expecting about a 5-page application. There's a few sections and we'll go over what's in each of the sections. But again, a few things to highlight here. We are looking for projects that are different from what we're funding already with our pathways to electrification. So these are projects that are outside of the municipal building retrofits or outside of the municipal fleet transition, since we are already providing funding in those areas. We are looking for projects that the cities will be implementing in your communities. So projects that you can take and run with some help from CPA in terms of the funding for that effort. Again, we're aligning them with those 3 project pillars. So a project that'll fall under one of those areas is what we're looking for. And we're also looking for, an ability to complete the projects fairly quickly. So we have a 2-year time frame in place for the projects overall. And this is intended to, give this, a guideline around what type of project you can create, run, design, and then implement and have that done within a 2-year period. So projects that can be achievable and implementable there in your community. Once we do, and we'll go over some of the program requirements, there will be a funding agreement in place. So cities that are selected, the projects that are selected, will go through an agreement and have your agency execute that, and then we can begin the work. Similar to how we're setting up our pathways to electrification projects. So cities that are going through that process, it will look pretty familiar to that to you. And this is also your chance to let your decision makers know that if you are interested in submitting a project for CPA, if you do need council approval, decision maker approval, to let your agencies know about that up front as well. So that's some of the background there. On the application areas, if folks have taken a look at the application that's on our website or have questions on what you need to include in your response, we're happy to go over that. We've got basically here 6 areas that we're including and looking just to get the project summary, the overview, what challenge you're trying to address in your community with this project funding, how that aligns again with our CPA program pillars and our overall decarbonization goals, and looking to again confirm that this is a project that you can implement within the 2-year time frame, that you have enough funding in place to implement the project. So whether that's implementing just with CPA funds, or if you're planning to use additional funds, other grants, or agency funding to complete that project, we'd like you to include that here in your feasibility and your budget proposal and request as part of the application. One other area to highlight are the program benefits. So we're going to be looking for your description of the program and the potential benefits you can see to the community, to the agency, and even to CPA as part of why this program is an important one in your community. And lastly, there we have the metrics. So looking also to see how you plan to measure success of this project. So if there are things that you'll be planning to monitor during the project, once the project's completed and implemented, results that you can share, we're looking to have an idea of that as well as part of the application. And what we'll be doing here, we're forming a selection committee to help us review all the applications that are received, and we're pulling from the applications. So from the story that you tell us and provide in the proposals, we'll be pulling out these areas here along the mission alignment, feasibility, and the project benefits to then help us review and score the applications received. And we're setting this up right now as a weighted scoring, so you can see the areas that have a little more emphasis than others, and we're definitely focusing on the alignment and of course the benefits of the project. So for you being able to show how this project will be one that has quantifiable results and positive results for your community. And we've flagged some things to consider in the application, and this is a part of the application document as well, noting if there are any vulnerable or underrepresented populations that would be impacted with the project, any other types of benefits around cost savings, things like that, to give you some ideas of what to include in the application. And the last couple of things I'll touch on here, just overall time frame of what we're looking at. So, I mentioned the launch has happened. We've been open for a couple of weeks now. The application itself is due on December 4th. So end of the day, December 4th. We'll then take that here internally, and with our selection committee, we'll be reviewing those through December and the early part of January. We're expecting to put together our recommendations for the projects that should be moved on to the board by the end of January, so we can get them to our board in February, March, in that time frame. And this will be something that we're asking our board of directors to approve the recommendations and select the projects for the final award and funding. The projects that are selected, we'll be working with each of the agencies, getting those funding agreements out to you, as I mentioned. And once those agreements are executed, then those are, work can begin on each of those projects. Let me see. And okay, let me know if you have trouble seeing this. My screen went blue, but I think it should be advancing. You should see the next slide here. It's just the resources that we're offering to help you through this process. We'll do another session like this at the end of the month on the 29th. So if you want to attend, you've got more questions that come up, you can definitely chime back in and join us for another session. We'll be posting the materials on our website, like I mentioned, and the slides and things will be there as well. And we can set up one-on-one calls too. So we've had quite a few one-on-one calls with our members so far, and I'm happy to keep doing those until the application deadline comes up. Let's see. Do we have a question pop up? Good. All right. And we'll move to that last piece here. And we touched on some of this already. Okay, so my screen is still a little bit grayed out, but hopefully it's advanced and you can see the program terms here on what else to expect. Um,
Yeah, we
one
can
of
we can see it all fine.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. The first thing here that we do want to note, and we've gotten some questions about this too, for the project sites that will be participating in the Innovation Fund, if there's going to be infrastructure installed or anything along those lines, we are looking for accounts that are with CPA service and, accounts that will be staying with CPA service for the duration of the program so that you can be eligible for our program benefits. Some of the kind of background caveats of our CPA funding. I think we've touched on some of the other things here about the timeline and the execution of the funding agreement. One other thing I did want to highlight is that if funding is going to be issued to participants, so if you're planning to do a project that has vouchers or rebates or incentives for community members to ensure that those participating in the program are also CPA customers. So we can talk through that too if there are any questions about that structure. A couple of things to expect in terms of the participants that are selected. We'll have a regular kind of reporting and check-in on the project so we can see how things are going and also help you keep track of the monitoring of, metrics and milestones and things like that. And we'll want to be able to tell the story, a couple of check-ins here along the way at the 1 year mark and at the end of the project. So we can share all the great things that you're doing in your communities. And then last thing is just on reimbursement. So the funding, we can approach this a couple of ways. We will be working with each of your agencies to agree upon, what the project entails, what the scope is, and the budget is, and those kind of approved activities will be what you roll out in terms of implementation, and then can request from CPA for that funding amount up until that $250,000 budget. We can, if you submit invoices or things of that nature, we can help send you that funding. They don't have to be paid invoices on your end, but we can send the funding so then you could pay vendors if that's how the program is structured, or issue the rebates or vouchers to participants for your program. And then I think that might be it here, and we'll get to the Q&A part of it. We've got a list here of kind of the top questions that we've been receiving so far. So I can run through these quickly, and if others have other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise a hand, and we can get through those. But I can do this as a start while wheels are spinning, and you've put some other questions together here. But to start off, I mentioned the number of projects. This is a $1 million fund for this first cycle. So we're expecting to award about four $250,000 projects. Now, if we have projects that are, less than that amount, then we can issue more awards. That's definitely something flexible. And I know we had gotten a question from the city manager group a couple months ago that what if we don't use all of the $1 million funding? Can we roll that over into the next funding cycle? So that's also, we're flexible with that as well. If we don't get as many projects at that $250,000 level, we can then use the funding in the next year. So we can, make that work so that all the agencies have access to the project funds when they're available. The funding, it is a competitive grant application, so not quite first come, first serve, but for the projects that are reviewed and selected, and then once those funding agreements are in place and the work starts, and then the funding will be dispersed depending on how the program's structured and how those funds are spent. But we do expect, having a capped or a limited number of projects. So we're hopefully we get plenty to select an award, and we get to hit our funding cap. That would be ideal on our end. The evaluation period, on the timeline there, we went through that quickly. Once we get the projects turned in December, we'll plan to make those recommendations by mid-January and then onto our board February, March. So by April, we're expecting to have the programs announced, the funding agreements executed so that the work can begin. That's kind of, similar timeline there for the agency award on that next question. And the one following about when implementation can begin. So around that April timeframe is what we're expecting. And if we're running the projects at about a 2 year clip, having them done by April 2027, or maybe through that fiscal year, the end of that 2025 fiscal year there in June, that could be a good timeline to expect for your projects overall. And then the funding reimbursement, we can if there are issues with funding or funds are needed upfront for certain activities, we can go over that with each agency when we review the project scope and determine, how you're going to run the program. But we're initially setting this up as a reimbursement structure, so we can plan to work through that. Um, and then we get this question about the sites not being enrolled in CPA service. We do have a process in place to work with Edison to bring accounts into CPA service if needed. Depending on the account, there's different timeframes. Like an example, one of our facilities was just switched into CPA service, and that was a pretty quick turnaround just on the next billing cycle. But there are certain accounts, like our streetlight accounts, if they're not in CPA service, those can take 6 months to bring back into CPA service. So if that has an impact on the project that you're looking to design or implement, or you fit that into your implementation schedule, those are things that we can talk about with each of you as you come up with a program proposal. And then the last questioning we got here was on partners. So, we do want you to include partners in the application if you are planning to work with another group to help implement your program. And we know it's a pretty quick turnaround to get the applications together. So the partnerships don't need to be finalized yet. If you are waiting to find out if your project is selected in the early part of the new year, that you can list out who you think you might be working with or the types of organizations you want to work with. And then once your project is selected, you can finalize any of those partnerships, and those would all be done directly between the city and the agency that you're working with. So CPA doesn't have a process to be involved in any of the implementation partners that you might bring on to the project. And I think that is the end of our list of questions that we've gotten so far. So I wanted to throw it out to you all and see if there are anything I can touch on or clarify, or if you have specific projects or just want to brainstorm anything that you're working on. Yeah, please let us know.
Hey, Sona, this is Elias from City of Santa Monica. This was great, and thank you for answering some of our questions on the side. Just want to clarify, when you say the project should be outside of the scope of the Pathways to Electrification portion of CPA's work, if we were to do a project or propose a project that was about building electrification out in the community, not a municipal building, would that be considered outside of the scope of Pathways to Electrification?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's a great question. And that is a good example of how we can split up and distinguish between what we're funding with Pathways and something else that you want to do in the community. So, yeah, absolutely. Building electrification projects are eligible for this. But yeah, as long as it's not at a municipal site, since we are funding it through Energized Communities, then yeah, you can work with another group and work on an electrification example or pilot in the community.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I saw someone else come off mute. Who was that there? Is that you, Doug? Did you have a question? No, maybe not. Just kidding.
Sorry, no, that was an
No
accident.
worries. No worries.
Hi, Sona. This is Joe Suska from Culver City. As you know, I am working on a project. We have a conceptual idea of how it would operate, but I don't want to share it with this group. I was wondering if I could just do a one-on-one since this is a competitive grant and there's very limited resources and there's a lot of us that'll probably apply. Is that cool?
Yes, no, we can do one-on-one sessions. I know that's right. There is a bit of competition built into this, right? So,
If I say
totally
it and
get it.
everyone loves it, then they'll all submit the same thing.
That's right. And that'll make our decisions even harder. I know. Yeah, I'm expecting this is going to be, I'm so curious to see what the projects are. And then, yeah, trying to decide how do we pick just four, but I'm
So,
assuming will be really good ones.
so basically just call me.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. No, we can do that. Um, and then for those that are looking for project ideas, I think a lot of folks on this call have been involved in the DOE, the EECBG funding for the energy efficiency projects. And even though it's energy efficiency titled, but a lot of the projects that have been awarded are things that fall into the electrification category. I've seen solar projects on there. So there's some really good examples on that DOE website. And if anyone needs the link to the project awards, just let us know and we can share that with you all. Right. Let's see if we don't have other questions. trying to think. Oh, I was supposed to share one other update. I think I mentioned at the very beginning on our community EV charging program. There's several agencies that are interested in that, and we're putting together that list, as I mentioned. The way it's set up right now, it's part of the Pathways project. So, agencies can select one of those three pathways. So, if you're enrolled in our building or our fleet project already, you wouldn't be able to enroll in community EV, at least not at this stage. But depending on how we put the program structure together, if there are opportunities to share that with all our agencies or do, another round of funding in the future, we will let you know how that structure does get finalized and put together. But for agencies that haven't selected a pathway yet and are waiting for the community EV, we'll also be in touch with you. So either way, if your city is interested in public charging, EV charging, let us know and reach out with which sites you think you would want to include in a solicitation that we put together. And then we'll get back to you about how we can move forward. Before I forget, I wanted to share that clarification on that program. Excellent. Well, if there are no other questions about the Innovation Fund or project application stuff, anything related to that, I will give you all some time back this afternoon. We'll put this information together and we'll send it out to you so you have it, and then it'll be posted on our website as well, so you can refer to it as you're working on your applications. And yeah, we're looking forward to reading the proposals you put together or setting up some time with you. If you have follow-up questions, just let us know.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. All right. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Sona.
Thank you, Sona.